Susan Capel, and I first want to say that I hope you and your family are safe and healthy. What a crazy time we're having right now, and your well-being is the most important. And you're home, so we can't be in the class together, so we thought we would send this video to help you produce a resume so that way when you're ready to apply for jobs, you'll be competitive. You're gonna look online and you're gonna find 100, maybe 1,000 different versions of resumes. It's your marketing piece, so you can take bits and pieces from different places and formulate your resume. So that way it's like the advertisement for you. On this video, we have suggestions from human resource reps in the pharmaceutical industry, as well as we're gonna look at sample resumes from past students who are now working in the field. So that's what we're gonna be doing today. We're gonna start by a resume overview. We're also gonna be looking at a job posting, so that way you can see how to write your resume with transferable skills to help you get the job. We're gonna be looking at two websites. onetonline.org, it's gonna be your best friend, helps you with your bullet points underneath your jobs. And then we're gonna look at careeronestop.com. This is a resume writing website, also helps with templates for your cover letters. Then we have sample resumes, as I mentioned, we're gonna review. And at the end, we're just gonna go over a summary, so that way you'll have a step-by-step process to help you produce your resume. Right now, in the description of this video, we have a link, and in the link, there is a overview as well as 4 sample resumes. So why don't you press pause, print them out if you can. If you happen to not have a printer, no worries, you can still follow along. All right, so you have your handouts. The first one that we're gonna go over is the overview. So, point number 1, when you apply for a job, the HR reps are looking at your resume in less than 10 seconds. That is not very long. So it's up to you to make it something they want to look at and they want to keep reading. So you want to make it neat, orderly, consistent throughout, and we're going to give you hints on how to do that. Point number 2 is you have to get your application with your resume in soon. So after 1 or 2 days, they receive, a lot of these companies, over 100 to 200 applications per job posting. So if you're not, they have to look at them in the order in which they're received. So if you don't get it in there soon, the job can still be posted and you apply, like just say a week or 2 later, you may not even get a response back because they've already found their strong candidates and they're not even looking at the ones coming in. So get it in soon. The next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna look at the job posting. It was part of the link that we sent. It is an associate manufacturing position. It's actually at the company Securus. They're in Holly Springs. They make the flu vaccine. So we are gonna look at this online together. All right, this is the job posting. This is the position. It's at Securus. You will notice it is a night shift position. I will tell you that when you apply for night shift and they call you, don't ask them if they have a day shift job. They will put you in the no pile. That's just an FYI. All right, so what you're doing is you're going down this job description and you are looking for action verbs. I've already put those in bold, many of them, but I want you just to get the feel for it because these are things that you can have stand out on your resume. So if we skip down here, for example, for this cleaning, preparing, and sterilizing, I would highlight that. Many of you have done that. You've been a waitress, you've worked at the grocery store. Nowadays, I'm sure many of you have had to sterilize where you are. So those are things that you can pull out and put on your resume. Assembling something, if you've done that, that is a verb that you can use and put on your resume. Document. I know many positions, many jobs, you have to document, whether or not you're documenting inventory or if you have to document the balance in the cash register. Those are important tasks that you see here they're looking for in pharmaceutical. So just know you have skills that you can transfer to these jobs. So you would do that all the way through. You'll see here at the bottom how important teamwork is. So think through that as you're preparing your resume, as well as when you go on your interview. You want to focus on teamwork skills. And then if you look down here at the minimum requirements, it talks about biowork. So that should encourage you, and just a great reminder that you're in a growing field. Okay, now we're going to switch to looking at some of the sample resumes. I'm going to continue talking about the points from the resume overview as we look at some of these sample resumes. So this resume is from a successful student at fast food. He worked at McDonald's. He came into the biowork program. He had 4 years of McDonald's experience. He is now successful in the field, and I thought he did a great job, especially making a simple but strong resume. That is very important. You'll see he did a great job with the white space. There's not a lot of paragraphs. You don't have filler words in here that you have to sort through. His font size for your name, you can have about a 14 up here. And then you will see the rest of the body of his resume is a 12. The smallest you'd want to go is an 11. Some you could make your headings bigger if you like. It's up to you. Again, it's your marketing piece. I'm just giving you some suggestions. So you're going to start up here at the top where you make your contact information. You can have your street address, or you can just leave it with your city and state. With your phone number, you do not have to tell us it's your phone number. You just list your phone number. When you do this, you start sending out your resume. You need to update your voicemail. The generic voicemails do not work. They need to hear your first and last name, as well as, you got to call them back soon after they leave a voicemail. But the generic ones, since they won't leave you a message, you can miss a lot of opportunity. Then with your email, highly suggest you put your name in your email, at least part of your name. I've seen some funny ones like hotpants.com, Captain America. You can save those on another email account, but one that you're going to check for your jobs, make it professional. So Gmails are free. All right, so then the next section down here, you can call it skills and qualifications, qualification summary, skills summary, you choose, but it is the most important section because they're looking at this and then deciding if they want to keep reading about you. So your first bullet should have something about your biowork. So you'd have biowork certification, or you can say biowork certificate. Now let's say it's April and you've sent it out and you are interested in working, you've sent it out and it's before you have your certificate. So you're going to put something like completion date 05/2020, let's say. You send it out. Now it's June. You can erase it. So until you have your certificate, you should have something like that on it. The next bullets are things that are strong about you. Perfect attendance, A average. I love this next bullet right here, strong initiative. You all could have a strong initiative bullet, but you want to think about what is it about you that has strong initiative, and then you want to put it. So his was the fact he was promoted. That's key and very, very awesome. Okay, so then you have stable work history. He worked there for 4 years. That is great. So if you've been somewhere for quite a while, you can put that on your resume. And it's also a great reminder if you tend to jump around a bit with your jobs, try to stay put for a while because they like to see that people can be dedicated. All right, so now when you go down and you're starting your work history, you just need to list the city and state. You do not need the street address. And then if you go over here to the right-hand side, this is where you should put your dates. They're used to seeing the dates on the right. Sometimes they get lost if they're over on the left. This example, he worked at McDonald's for 4 years, but he had different positions. So you only need the date to include all of the positions, and they don't need to be separate.
It just makes it stronger. Then when you go over here, you're making your resume chronological, which means the most recent first, then you work backwards. So he was a supervisor, his most recent position, and he was promoted into that role. So your first bullet would talk about that promotion. Even though you have the promotion listed up here, everything that is up here needs to be found somewhere down here in the body. So this worked for him, okay, having it both places. Then after that, the next bullets all start with action verbs and they are present tense. And then when you skip down to your past jobs, those action verbs are past tense. All right? They all start with verbs. You don't say things like responsible for, or they don't say unloading. Okay, they're even present tense up here or past tense. And lose the periods at the end. So none of these have periods. That goes along with being consistent. They're not full sentences, so then you don't need the period. You go down to the education. This is a great way to look at the format that you would have the college, city, and state, and then underneath it, the certificate and the date. And if you have degrees, the associate degree, you can have that listed as well. All right. The last point about this resume is he worked at McDonald's, but you don't see anything on here about cheeseburgers or French fries or milkshakes because he worked to make his skills transferable to what they would be interested in the pharmaceutical. So that way, when they looked at his resume, they could actually imagine him working in those positions. So now I'm going to show you a website, ONET Online, that is going to help you with creating your bullet points.
This website is going to be your new best friend, onetonline.org. I know it's a bit of a tongue twister, but it's super helpful. So what you do is you go over here under Occupation Quick Search, and you're going to put in a job title. So I'm going to use food prep. And you hit enter, and it brings up a few selections. Typically, you are going to use the one that has bright outlook. Not always, but most times. I'm going to click on that, and we are going to focus on this area under tasks. We're using this to get an idea of words and phrases that you can use for the bullet points under your job. These are great, usually great starters for you. They will start with action verbs right here, and it's about the length of the phrases that you should be using on your resume, minus the periods. We're not going to use the periods on your resume. So if you look back at the job from Securus, it talked about cleaning and sanitizing. So this website reminds you that as a food prep, you do clean and sanitize. It's not all about just the food. So I would use, you don't want to write it exactly right here, paraphrase it a little bit, but it gives you a great starter because here you clean and sanitize the work areas. In that job posting, it talked about documentation. So if it was my resume, I would take this phrase right here and change the word take to document. That way you're working on your transferable skills and changing it to meet the need so that when the HR rep looks at it, they quickly can see that you've done some of the skills that they're looking for. So this website, we're going to focus on this tasks section. There's a lot more information on here. It goes through knowledge and skills needed, but we basically use it for this section. All right, so you're going to do that on your resume with each job that you're working on. You go back to ONET Online and go through the task, and then look at the job posting to formulate your bullet points. Another website is called careeronestop.org. And this has a lot of great information about job search, it has resume information, but I really love it for cover letters. If you click on this, there is a cover letter template. Not all the companies require cover letters, but some do. So this helps you with formatting, and if you page down here at the bottom, it gives you ideas of what to write in each paragraph. All right, so now we're going to turn to looking at some more sample resumes of past students.
Okay, you still with me? Don't fall asleep. We're going to go 3 more resumes, and I'm not going to go over all the details. Just quickly, I want to encourage you, because I know many of you do not have experience. This young lady did not. She worked at the outlet mall. She came to a career expo. It was one company. They had 19 open positions. We had 305 candidates come, and she was one of the favorites. She is working in that company still and doing amazing. So I want to show you what she did on her resume to help her stand out. After her contact information, she also created this skills summary. Now, she put her associates first, which is great. Also, if you have a bachelor's degree, you can put that first. Then she had her bio work. She also had the bullet down here, perfect attendance, A average. Then again, my favorite bullet, the strong initiative. Hers was the same, the promotion, promoted to supervisor. She had stable work history, and then she received a college scholarship, which is great. The next section, she chose to put education above her work experience since it was strong. So if that is true for you, that's a great idea. So you can see here how she listed her education. If you need more space, you could combine this. So since this was the same community college, you could just list the college once and then have each of the degrees separate underneath it. But because she needed some filler for space, she chose to do it this way. Then under her work experience, similar to the guy from McDonald's, it was one company but separate positions. So she has the same format. But if you look at the verbs, it's the same. Current positions are present tense, past position, past tense. What she did a great job at was using the numbers. So within 2 years, she was promoted. She managed 3 departments with 24 employees. Instead of just saying she managed a department, she gives you a better idea of what she's capable of handling. So this is a great example of a strong one-page resume. Here we go. Strong candidate with detailed education. This gal had manufacturing experience, but it was years ago, and she wanted to make sure it stood out. Some would say, because it was in the 80s, that, well, it's too old, don't include it. But she really wanted to, and it worked for her. She's working in the field. So what she did is she made a bullet point within her skills summary right here, 5 years manufacturing experience. So it stands out because remember, they're looking at the top half of the first page the most. So she wanted to make sure that bullet was there. But then everything that's in this section needs to be somewhere in your resume. So she was able to go down here and include it because it was in the 80s, right? It had to be all the way at the bottom, but that's okay because it got their attention because it was up here. She put her education next because it was stronger than her work history. She worked through a staffing agency, and they suggested that she put details about her education because some of the companies she was applying to weren't that familiar with the biowork. So look how she built that up. All right, so she put a lot of the details, put a lot of the details in here, and you can use that. She was great that I'm using it as an example for you. So if you have a resume that is a little simplified and you're sending it out and it's not working for you, you can borrow what she's done here and try to build it up and make it stronger. So then education here, she has 2 pages, education there, and then she goes into the employment history. So it's 2 pages. The top of her second page has to have her name and the page number. You do not staple it, all right? So you have the name and the page number. You have to start the second page with the name of the company of a job. You do not start it with half of something from the first job, from the job above it. So sometimes that's tricky because it might not be where it naturally breaks. What this gal had to do was she had to go through and change it. She had to change her layout. So her layout was set at, normal, and she changed it to narrow. So the normal would have looked like this, okay, which would have made her resume a 3-page resume. And you cannot have a 3-page resume. So by the way she did it, making it narrow, it really worked for her. Okay, so you might want to try that. You see how her dates all line up neat over here on the right hand side? This is perfect. You want it to be easy for them to look at so they can see exactly how long you were working where you were. If you've been somewhere part time, you can do it like this. Just put parentheses after the job. If you've had a gap, many have, I did for a few years, like if you stay home with your kids, you can put that on here like this, family caregiver, and you go over here and you have the dates. That's simple. You do not need to put the bullet points of what you did when you were home. And you can use this phrase also for if you took care of elderly parents or a sick relative, anything like that, you can just put it under the umbrella of family caregiver. All right, so this was a strong 2-page resume. You can still see it's easy to read. There's great use of white space. And again, the contact information is simple and it's at the top. We have one more to look at. Last but not least, we're looking at this resume here. It says John A. Smith at the top. This is a different format. Another HR professional shared this with BioWorks students, and it's a great option. So you may have 2, 3, even 4 resume styles that you're going through and modifying to fit your job postings, and you might want to try this format. I like it here because it has your LinkedIn address. We highly recommend that you get a LinkedIn account. You'll be hearing more about that later. But do not put it on your resume if you don't monitor your account, if you're not updating it. Only put it on your resume if it's strong. This resume has a profile as well as a detailed skills list, has more bullets than the previous resumes. But again, it's your marketing piece. And if you have a lot of different things that you want to showcase, you can try this format. Down here, they have it listed as professional experience. I like that. It's a different format for where you worked, but it's effective. And you go over here, the dates are still on the right-hand side. I want to point this out right here, that this is another way to show where you've been if you've been off work, especially if you have been laid off. A lot of you may be in that boat right now. So you could do something like put the date and you could say company-wide layoff. And that shows you didn't just quit, you didn't get fired. That's where you've been. All right, so if you go over here, same thing, action verbs. And then down here, if you have been a volunteer, you can have it listed in line with your professional experience, or you can create a separate section down below your education and call it community service. And then you have you see their education above there. I want to point out, we have talked about saying completion date if you have not yet completed your certificate or your degree, but you can also say it this way and say pending. All right, so we've reviewed the 4 resumes, And now we're going to do a quick summary, and you're going to be well on your way to success, creating a resume, and getting your job.
All right, so that was a lot of information. I hope you're still with me. I know it's a lot of details. It can be overwhelming. I personally would rather go to the dentist than sit down and work on my own resume. So it can be frustrating. But what we've done is broken it down by step, so that way you make it simple instead of overwhelmed with the whole process. So the first thing you're gonna do, just a reminder, is that you're gonna print out your job posting and you're gonna circle the action verbs, all right? Then the next thing is you get your blank Word document and you just start working on your resume. Starting at the top with your contact information, you can create the space for the skill summary, but don't work on that yet. You can put bio work, but then you're gonna skip down and you're gonna start working on your job details because that's known, right? You know where you've worked. You know the city and the state and the dates, your job description, your job position title, and then look at ONET online and you're gonna start working on your bullet points. All right, so keeping in mind what is on your job description, so you look at the bullet points and then you use some of these action verbs so it's transferable for your job. Then what you're gonna work on is your education. Then at the end, you go back to the top and work on your skill summary. So you're looking for some strong points to make the HR rep really think that you're a candidate for the job, because you are, right? So now you're gonna have somebody proofread it and then somebody else, because you wanna make sure there are no errors. Pharmaceutical is very detail oriented, so you wanna give yourself a fighting chance. So you've had everything looked at, now it's time to apply. You need to persevere. Many students that are working in the field had to apply 10, 20, some even 30 or 40 times, but they're working in the field. It's a growing industry, but you gotta keep at it, okay? Keep looking at the jobs. If one version of your resume doesn't work, try sending out another. We're here for you. Hopefully we'll be back in class soon. Take care of yourself and keep working at it. You've got this.